stay tuned because for the next 60 minutes, Motorsports Unlimited is on the air. Hi, I'm Jerry Bryant, and these are the lovely ladies of motorsports. And all this hour, we're going to have 60 minutes of action-packed excitement. All kinds of exciting things will happen. And we got the famous Bill Wildt, and we got all kinds of other good stuff that's happening all this hour. Motorsports Unlimited, 60 minutes of non-stop action. So let's go to the studio right now.
Thanks, Jerry, and hi, everybody. Welcome to the studio headquarters of Chicagoland's most watched, most talked about Access television series. I'm May Chin, and this is the 1193rd edition of Motorsports Unlimited.
I'm Rena Cairo, and it's time to close the 2010 Outdoor Summer Car Show season.
That's right, Rena. All good things must come to an end, and the Riverside Garage Car Show has become the final event of the year.
I can understand why. It's September 26th, and there is a chill in the air.
Yes, the season is changing. Bill is back to a sports coat, and it almost seems like fall.
As it turned out, the final show was outstanding with a record turnout and an unparalleled variety of cars on display. So let's join Bill in Riverside, Illinois, and take a look.
Well, I've certainly got a bone to pick with this guy. Last year, in fact, we go through this every year with the Riverside Car Show, is to try to tell you how to find it. And my way of finding Riverside in the Riverside Garage Car Show is to take the Eisenhower, get off at Des Plaines Avenue, go south on Des Plaines Avenue. It doesn't stay Des Plaines Avenue. No. It becomes what?
I think it turns into Woodside down there, but I wouldn't come that way.
We're getting to that. Okay. I got the bone to pick you. We're getting there.
Yeah,
okay, and it becomes, what does the Des Plaines Avenue become?
It changes names a couple times.
How long have you been here?
Since 1983.
And you don't know the name that it turns into?
No,
Unbelievable. Anyway, it's just assume it's Des Plaines Avenue because it doesn't change anything. Keep coming. You sort of wind through the town, and when you get to the railroad tracks, stop and look to the right. You're here. Now, last year he said, Bill, you're making too big of a deal of it. Take First Avenue. It'll take you right here. Dude, let me tell you something. You cannot see any of this from First Avenue. I just did it that way. It doesn't work. Yeah, what he's saying is you take First Avenue south from the Eisenhower and come down and find Forest Avenue?
Forest Avenue with the big arrowed sign. So you missed the sign.
Big arrowed sign?
Yeah.
Nothing. It's impossible.
I put a sign with an arrow out there myself.
Trust me, do Des Plaines Avenue. It works much better. Tell the folks who you are.
Yeah, I'm Rick Ravella, part of Riverside Garage. You know what? I believe we've been doing this show since '95.
Has it been that long?
Yes, it has been that long.
Wow, well, it looks like you've got a full house here again today. Congratulations. I was starting to think you guys weren't mortal anymore because every single year we've come here, you've had absolutely perfect weather. For the first time, it's cold.
Yes, it's cold, but it's clearing up and that sun is coming out as we're speaking.
So you guys apparently are not mortal. You're going to have a perfect day again.
We are going to have perfect day again.
Okay. Tell us just a little bit. I want to know a little bit about the Riverside Garage because this is really kind of the quaint, even though this is very difficult to find, the fact of the matter is it is a quaint station, and as I understand it, been around since 1938?
Yeah, the garage has been here since 1930.
1930?
Yeah, me and my partner are the third owners of it. Larry Sawinski's the other partner in this. And we actually saw the ad in the Suburban Life. We came out and watched the garage for a day and said, that's where we want to work. And
you've been here ever since?
Been here since '83.
Boy, that's absolutely amazing. And it's one of the very few shops that I guess we could honestly say are really auto repair shops that are still left.
Yeah, we're one of those. And I'll tell you, the first day we opened for business, it was 26 degrees below zero.
No.
I swear to God, it was the coldest week in December that they had in a long time.
So it was colder than today?
Yeah, I got here, my partner was here ahead of me. I couldn't open the door because there were so many people standing in the office.
Is that right, really?
Yes, it was.
Well, I'll tell you something. It's a wonderful. The cool thing about it is this is such a quaint area. As I look, and hopefully I'm showing you a picture of this. I look across the street. We've got these beautiful, what I call antique water towers. What are those?
Oh, we've got the historical water tower, and then there's a well house right next to it.
Yeah, it looks like little castles.
Yes, they are.
Okay, and the dinging you hear in the background, by the way, they've got some kind of a hot dog stand over here. Most elaborate. It looks like a train.
Yeah, it's a small train engine he cooks on.
I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, it's very cool.
Okay, so as always, a bunch of surprises here. You guys have become, I don't know if it's official or not, but become sort of traditionally the last car show of the outdoor summer car show season every year. And I don't know how you get away so lucky on the weather, but it sort of gives kind of a fall feeling.
Yeah, I love this time of year.
Yes, I do
This is
too.
the best time of year.
Yeah, it's not so brutally hot. It's not so the humidity and everything. It's nice.
Yeah. We ran 3 cruise nights, one a month, second Thursday, and every one of those was raging hot out here. We were just sweltering.
Right.
So I am just happy to see that we got a nice, cool, day show going on.
Well, I am too, and we're going to have a good. And I'll tell you something right now. They are absolutely packed. There's still cars. Are you turning cars away yet?
No, we are trying not to turn anyone away, and there are such beautiful cars here today. You guys, this is incredible.
It's an incredible thing. Is there anything you want to tell the folks before we get going?
Come on down the next time. You got to come and see this.
Yeah, you really do, and this is always the last one of the season. Watch our website. We'll have it on our website. The Riverside Garage Car Show every year traditionally kind of closes the outdoor summer car show season, and really, you can find it. It's not easy, but you can find it.
Now, Bill, you're the only one that can't find it. The rest of us can.
Yeah, I'm old.
And here's about 250 of my closest friends that did find it.
Right. Well, trust me, it's hard to find. And the first Avenue thing doesn't work at all.
One thing is sure, the Riverside Garage Car Show is well worth finding. It's a beautiful setting. Let's get started with the cars.
I couldn't get away from the Riverside Garage when there's an absolutely exquisite 32 Ford Highboy, the what you might call the quintessential traditional American hot rod. And as long as the owner was there, I wanted to grab him right away, and you are.
My name is Scott Bischoff. I'm from Wheaton, Illinois.
Tell me about your car, and let's start with the make, year, and model, then we'll get into it.
It's a 1932 Ford Highboy Roadster. Had the car for 10 years. Car was built in Tennessee. Actually, one of my friends bought the car in April of 2000, and we did work together. I did work for him, he did work for me, and just one day I was asking him, do you know anybody who's got a 32 Ford Highboy Roadster for sale? Yeah, he said, I bought one about two months ago. He said, you want to buy it? I'll be glad to sell it to you. So in June of 2000, I bought it, and I've had it ever since. I've added a lot of things to it, but car's been really reliable, and it's been a really good car for 10 years. So.
Okay, 2 questions. Is there a single part on it from a 1932 Ford?
Not one single bolt.
Okay, so we're talking about a glass or aluminum
It's a fiberglass reproduction. It's a rat glass body on a Bobby Alloway chassis, 305 small block Chevy, 350 3-speed turbo automatic, Chevy 10-bolt rear end.
And can you explain to the audience what highboy means?
Highboy means that the body sits on top of the frame. So if you have a fenderless car, you can see that the body sits on top of the frame. That means what it means a highboy is for.
That's right, and the audience should know that there are a number of ways to do these traditional American street rides. First of all, we've explained so many times on Motorsports Unlimited, there are essentially 3 kinds of traditional American street rides. What I call the carriage-like cars, which are the T-Roadsters and the ilk. They're not just T's, but T-Roadsters and the ilk, the carriage-like traditional American hot rods. Then the square ones, which would be the 32 Fords and all the other ones in that range as far as 34s and all the rest of it. And then the fat-fendered cars. But within those groups, for example, 32 Fords, there's probably a dozen different ways to do a 32 Ford traditional American street ride.
Traditional, high-tech. Mine's more, I think, kind of in between. It's kind of has some high-tech to it, but it's more traditional with the Duval windshield, and it's got...
What about the chassis? Whose chassis is it?
The chassis is a Bobby Alloway chassis.
Bobby, okay,
He's a
noticed
famous builder in Tennessee.
Yeah, because I noticed that you've got a dropped front axle. It looks like it was a tubular steel axle, though,
Right.
not the original.
No, it's all Pete and Jake's 4-bar suspension, Pete and Jake's tube front axle, and it's got I Did It tilt steering wheel, low car shifter, low car pedals. So
How about the rear end?
rear end is a Chevy 10-bolt rear end with a 323 gear.
Any thought to doing an independent rear suspension?
No.
No. Now you bought it this way.
I bought it this way.
Okay, I'm always interested in those things because I'm the kind of guy, and my friends now are all the kinds of guys that have been doing engine swaps since we were 14 years old in the garage and building cars and all that. And as I've gotten into the television end of this thing, I found out we're actually kind of a minority, you guys that buy these things. But I wonder what provokes you if you don't have the instinct to put an engine on a chain hoist and hang it in there. What provokes you to want a traditional American street rod?
Well, back in the 60s, my dad, my brother, and myself, we built a 37 Ford 5-window coupe.
So you are a gearhead.
I'm a gearhead.
Okay.
Took us 5 years to build it. Frame off restoration. Had a small block Chevy in it. Went to the first Street Rod Nationals in Peoria, Illinois in 1969, and got married, had to sell the car, and had kids, and now had a chance to buy this car about 10 years ago, and always wanted to get back into hot rodding.
So you're kind of reaching back for a time that you enjoyed in your life, and now that you can afford it and all that sort of thing?
Definitely.
Okay, is there anything I missed about your car you're particularly proud of you'd like the audience to know about?
No, I think it's just a beautiful car, the silver color. So.
Sure. Well, thanks for spending a little time with us. Traditional, probably the most traditional of all of the traditional American street rods, a 32 Ford Highboy Roadster.
That was beautiful, and I'm learning more and more about hot rodding as I progress with the show. The next car Bill spotted is anything but a traditional American street rod, but it has a special meaning to him.
I'm not sure if I've ever said this before, but probably the first official car that I ever had. Not the first car I ever had, because I had a few failed projects before this one, which was a driver, was a 53 Cadillac. I had a four-door Fleetwood, and I was very proud of it. The windows were hydraulically operated, and within a few days they didn't go up anymore, so it sat for an entire winter with the windows down all the time, but I still liked it. I'm sure none of this is of interest to you, but tell us who you are, sir.
My name is Frank Tallarico.
And where are you from, Frank?
Lyle, Illinois.
Okay, tell me about your car. Start with the make, year, and model, then I'll contrast it to my Cadillac experience.
It's a 1953 Cadillac Coupe de Ville. It's been restored, as you can see. It's in an Eldorado color right now. It was ordered in this color by the original owner with the wire wheels the build sheet.
This is a 53 color?
Yes, Eldorado only.
Wow, okay.
And the reason that probably why the gentleman got the special order, the original buyer was Dean Martin.
Is that right?
That's correct, sir.
The original owner of this car was Dean Martin.
I have the original ID card under the hood, and if in the window the Paramount Pictures sticker is still there, his parking sticker.
How cool is that?
Pretty cool.
It really is. Now, did you have any trouble with the hydraulic windows like I did?
They've all been rebuilt, and they've been also converted from brake fluid to automatic transmission fluid.
You understand what I'm talking about?
Oh,
then,
I know
right?
it well. I learned to drive in a 53 Cadillac.
Okay, so you know that the windows didn't go up after a while.
Yes.
This engine, if I remember correctly, and I'm reaching back a long time, 331?
331, 210 horsepower.
Okay, and did it have a four-barrel?
Four-barrel carburetor.
As a matter of fact, on the north side of Chicago, and I don't remember the fellow's name, it was a Mac something like McKinsey or McKinnell or something like that. He had a 53 Cadillac four-door with a dual quad Cadillac engine. It was one of the fastest cars on the north side.
His name was Mackenzie, and he had a drag car.
You know what I'm talking about? Yes,
He had a drag car called the Wine Scooter.
You're exactly right.
Had a blown Cadillac in it.
Did you know him?
I met him. I was at his house a couple of times, many years ago. And the Cadillac he had was a 51 four-door sedan.
It was a 51, okay.
And it was the world's fastest tow car.
Exactly correct, and it was fast because it was all built up. It had a cam and dual quads and all the rest.
And I rode in that car.
Did you really?
Yes, I did, sir.
Oh, I can't believe it. Anyhow, what provoked you? What did you want a car like this for?
Well, I learned to drive in a 53, and believe it or not, before we had all these muscle cars, my first hot rod was a 53 with a 58 engine, dual quads, and Isky cam and lifters, and a 427 gear out of a hearse. And the old guys out there, I remember, had a Hydromotive Hydro from Hydromotive at 59th and Cicero.
Okay,
so
I was thinking B&M, but okay, yeah.
And at that time, that car would turn 1370. A Coupe de Ville.
Let me explain this just a little bit to some of the youngsters out there who don't have a guess why we would fool around with a big old Cadillac. The fact of the matter is, back then, back in the mid-50s and early 50s, it wasn't altogether clear what the hot cars were going to be, because at that time, the fast cars were the Chryslers and the Oldsmobiles, and we didn't have big engines in Fords and Chevys at that time.
That's correct.
So back at that time, it wasn't entirely clear what a hot car was going to be, and I'm not sure how old you are. I'm 67, but it could have gone this way.
I'm 70.
Okay, so you would even be a couple years older than me, so yeah, you would have been into the big car, big engine thing.
Well, it was my fooler car to drive-ins, because many a 348 Chevy got sucked in by that Cadillac.
Absolutely. Wasn't it fun?
It was great.
It was a great time. Now, is there anything I've missed about your car you're particularly proud of you'd like the audience to know about?
Well, I've owned a car for 12 years. I do drive it. It's not a trailer queen. In fact, it needs to be buffed out now. It's got a little overspray on it, and that's where it's going. In fact, I was going to put it in storage today, but I decided to come to the show with it before I put it away.
Well, hope you're enjoying the show.
I'm enjoying it. It's a great show.
Okay, my friend. Thanks for spending a little time with us, folks. At one time, this is when I loved hot rodding the best, when everybody's choice was different and unique, and certainly a 53 Cadillac was a different and unique choice.
Different and unique is right. Who would have guessed people used to build Cadillac hot rods? Now let's switch gears completely and check out some of the British sports cars that seem to be always on hand at the Riverside Garage Car Show.
Boy, have I found a corner over here at the Riverside Car Show. And as a matter of fact, here's a tip, folks. If you like the British sports cars, the early British sports cars, make sure you come to the Riverside Car Show, because it seems like every year they have a rather extensive collection here. And look what I found. First of all, you are
Jerry Seahack,
where are you from, Jerry?
Indian Head Park.
Tell me what we've got, and start with the make, year, and the model, and then we'll get into the details.
It's a 1946 MGTC, 1250 engine. And I've had it for about 30 years.
30 years?
Yeah.
Well, it looks like a complete restoration, so I would assume you must have had it during the restoration.
Correct.
Did you do any of the work?
Yes, I did.
What do you mean? What part of it did you do?
Well, I did some of the body work and some of the engine work. Since then, I've taken the engine out and redone the engine. So it's I've gotten my hands full of grease.
Do you actually drive the car? Do you actually use it?
Yes, I do.
What a piece. This is, folks, all I can tell you is that when you talk about the quintessential sports car that brought sports cars to America, the MG was the car, and this was the one with the huge wire wheels. This is the one that America fell in love with.
That's correct. This car was brought to America in the middle 40s, right after the war, by returning servicemen primarily. And everybody fell in love with it, and it led to the sports car evolution in America. In fact, Dentov from the Corvette company raced the MGTC, and it was his love of the MGTC that convinced the General Motors to produce the Corvette.
You know, I've told the story on Motorsports Unlimited before, but people don't watch every week like they're supposed to. But my first exposure to sports cars, I'm originally from upstate New York, and my parents had a motel and restaurant there. And my parents called me. I was playing out in the back one day. They says, you know, Billy, come on out in front. You got to see the baby car. You got to see the baby car. So I go into, and here is a red MG
TC.
Red MG TC with the big wire wheels and a red body and a white top. And I absolutely fell in love with it. I had never seen anything quite as pretty, and I still feel that way about it. And apparently you do too.
Yes, I do. They produced the T-types from 1938 through 1955. The TA, TB, TC after the war, TD in the early 50s, and the TF in 1954 and 55.
Okay, well, help me. I'm going to try to remember this. I never do. Which ones of these series, which T numbers had the big wire wheels?
Well, this is the TA, TB, and TC.
The TCs?
They're 19-inch wheels.
Because the TF had the smaller wires.
They had the 15-inch. These are 19-inch.
These are the ones with the big wires.
Correct.
Okay, is there anything I've missed about your car you're particularly proud of you'd like the audience to know?
No, I just like everybody to enjoy the car. It's a wonderful car. It's a great riding car. In fact, this summer I drove it to Cleveland for GOF in
really?
Yeah, in near Cleveland.
Well, you must be quite a mechanic.
Well, I was very fortunate.
Yeah, well, no.
I've broken down many times on the side of the road. And
I love the British stuff. Believe me, I'm not making fun. I love the British sports cars. I love the British motorcycles, but I have no illusions about them. Reliable, they're not. Yeah. But if you got all the way to Cleveland, not bad.
Well, we've had reliability runs, and many of the cars go through those reliability runs, 1,000-mile races around Lake Michigan, and without any incidents. So.
Well, I'll tell you something. I'm glad you guys enjoy these cars. They're absolutely exquisite. Folks, believe me, a car like this is like a pretty girl. It's a joy to behold. When I walked around the corner and saw it here, I said, I've got to find the owner for this one. So thanks for spending a little time with this beautiful, beautiful car. And this isn't the only one here in this little corner. I'm going to see who else I can find.
Everybody loves the early British sports cars. And when you talk about them as a group, most would agree the E-Type Jaguar is at the top of the list. It was the fastest and most expensive, but most of all, it was the prettiest. Check this one out.
Well, I'm not sure if you can do a piece at a car show about British sports cars without at least one E-Type Jaguar. These were in my opinion, one of the prettiest cars ever designed, often referred to as the lady's shoe. And hopefully if I'm showing you a correct picture of it right now, you'll see what I'm talking about. These had just the prettiest lines of perhaps any car ever designed. And on top of that, it was a fine handling, exquisite car. First of all, you are.
My name is Chester Stock. I've owned this car for 34 years.
And where are you from, Chester?
I'm from Riverside, Illinois.
Okay, you've owned it for 34 years. You weren't the original owner.
No, I wasn't. I bought the car and needed total restoration, and I carried that restoration out to probably in 1978. The car's now the way it was in 1978.
You did the work?
Most of the work I'd done, all the mechanical. I had a friend help me, Frank Wachowski, and the paint job was done by a young man by the name of Kelly Winston. At that time, he was probably 17 years old.
Okay, let's start with the make, year, and model.
It's a 1968 XK Coupe.
Okay, now I'm going to test you on this since you apparently know something about these cars. I've always said I always wanted an E-Type Jaguar. I always wanted a Roadster. The only one I didn't want was a 61. Why didn't I want the 61?
The 61 had flat floors.
Nope, but go ahead, not bad, go ahead.
And it also didn't have a alternator, it had a generator.
It didn't have a synchro mesh first gear.
It had the Moss box.
Yes,
Correct.
exactly. It was at a crunch in first gear, and I couldn't live with that. I'd love to have a 62 though. Now, they didn't come out with the coupe version of the E-Type until when?
The following year, they come out with a coupe, and they were very successful. Actually, it was probably the most sleekest of all the cars.
Absolutely, just an exquisite. Whoever drew the car just had just such an elegant touch. The E-Types were always known for their beauty, but what I was more attracted to them for was that this was a really unusual car technically, in that it was partially space frame and partially monocoque. Perhaps you can explain that to the audience.
Well, a monocoque is a box. The space frame is this portion that holds the bonnet, and also the engine compartment. Another feature of this car was that it had four-wheel disc brakes.
And fully independent suspension.
It did have independent suspension also. But the brakes were a big feature because they were taken off of the D-Type that had been a successful racer, and they put them on the E. It caused the car to stop. It was tremendously fast, but it also was able to stop very well.
How have you done for reliability?
I've changed a few features on there. Now I've got a Mallory distributor. I got rid of a lot of the Lucas equipment that was on the car. Now it's mostly American electronics.
So it's
more. It starts all the time. Cold start, hot, cold. It always starts.
Well, it's a gorgeous car. Now, is there anything I've missed about your car that you'd like the audience to know about?
No, I think you've covered everything. Thank you for the interview.
Well, I'll tell you something. This, once again, the E-Type Jaguar is a particularly interesting car for a number of reasons. Like I say, technically I find it fascinating that it has both a monocoque, in that the tub for the passengers sit in and it supports the rear suspension of the car is all monocoque design, and yet the engine and front suspension are supported on a space frame that is bolted to the monocoque. Only the British can get away with this, and get away with it very, very successfully. It worked extremely well. In addition to having fully independent suspension, disc brakes all the way around, just a wonderful, wonderful car to drive. And on top of that, some of the prettiest lines that any car ever had.
It's beautiful, but I must admit I was with Bill that day, and all the British sports cars were beautiful, including this fine example of an Austin Healey 3000.
You know, these early British sports cars really make you crazy, because every one you look at, I look at it and I say, oh, no, that's the one I like best. Oh, no, that's the one I like best. I mean, how do you not love a big wire-wheeled MG? And how do you not love an E-Type Jaguar? Well, I've got another one for you. How about an Austin Healey 3000? How do you not love the looks of an Austin Healey 3000? I personally thought it has just the prettiest body lines, the way the exhaust kicked up in the back, and it kind of fit the body lines. You know what I'm talking about?
Definitely. That's what I like about them.
It is so cool. First of all, you are?
I'm Ken Kozolka.
Where are you from, Ken?
I'm from Brookfield.
Tell me about your car. Start with the make, year, and model. We'll get into the rest.
It's a 1961 Austin Healey Mark I BT7, which is a four-seater. So.
No, I didn't know. As a matter of fact, I was embarrassed at the North Lake car show in that fellow there had an Austin Healey 100, and I mistook it for a 3000. So you better be real clear with me because I'm not as smart as I thought I was.
Well, it's easy to do. The bodies were pretty similar.
Very similar, yes.
But this has 4 seats in it, believe it or not. The back seats you can barely use are for kids, basically, but it's considered a 4-seater.
Okay, and was this one with overdrive?
Yes, it has overdrive.
Because I'm trying to remember back. I've got to remember I went into high school in 1957. So obviously I was studying these cars like crazy. And I remember the big thing in the magazines back then was the Austin Healey 3000 with the overdrive trans. And if I remember right, you could use the overdrive in both third and fourth gear, which made it kind of a 6-speed.
That's correct. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and that was very exciting for me as a young tech guy.
Sure, yeah, definitely. It's fun to use now.
Yeah. So it works?
Oh, yeah.
As advertised?
Yeah, definitely works. Definitely works.
Tell engine and driveline. What have we got here?
Basically, you've got a 6-cylinder engine. It's about 2,600 cc, and it's 4-speed, and then you got the 2-speed overdrive. So
which you could use in third and fourth, which effectively made a 6-speed out of it.
That's correct.
Okay, how about now? If I remember correctly, these did not have independent rear suspension.
No, they don't. They're just a solid rear suspension, which makes them very good for going around corners. Though I mean, they corner on a dime. So.
You know, it was interesting back then when you looked at the early British sports cars, it kind of went like this. The 4-cylinders were the least expensive ones, typically the MGs, and they were the 4-cylinders, although there were some Austin Healeys with 4-cylinders, also some Triumphs with 4-cylinders. Then the more expensive ones that you moved up a little bit would be like this one, the Austin Healey 3000. However, it wasn't at the level of Jaguar, which had the independent, at least the E-Type had the independent rear suspension, because these still had the solid rear axle. How am I doing? Am I classifying them about right?
You are right on. Basically the Austin Healey was developed to be between the Jaguar and the MG.
Exactly. That's how I recall it. Yes,
that's exactly right. So no, you're right on.
Now, was it in this shape when you got it, or did you have to do any work on it?
No, I rebuilt it from scratch, ground up restoration.
Did you do any of the work?
I did most of the work.
How long?
3.5 years.
Beautiful piece of work. You do this for a living?
No. This was my therapy.
Well, okay, I've got to ask you then. What do you do? What did you or do you do for a living?
Well, I have a company that sells garbage trucks, believe it or not.
And you found something satisfying. I'm always trying to probe people's minds to find why they're interested in motorsports.
Well, basically my job consists of being on the phone most of the time and, in an office and meeting people and not a lot of work with my hands. But this is what satisfied me, to work with my hands and, accomplish something. So it was my pastime.
Well, you did a beautiful job with it. It's
Thank
an
you.
absolutely gorgeous restoration, and hopefully you actually drive it.
Oh, yes, definitely.
It's on the road all the time?
All the time.
God, I love that. Now, is there anything I've missed on your car you're particularly proud of you'd like the audience to know about?
Well, the one thing that I did do, I took the paint off the radiator, on the brass radiator.
You wanted that brass to shine.
Yeah, I wanted that brass to shine. So,
okay. Well, now you know what you got to do is shine it all the time, unfortunately.
That's right. But
it becomes a real maintenance hog.
That's right. But it's fun.
Okay, it's a great car. I thank you for spending a little time with us. And folks, once again, don't forget the Riverside show. For some reason, they always have a real strong contingent of the early British sports cars, and they are absolutely a delight.
As our regular viewers know, I don't know a lot about cars, but these were beautiful. I'll have to learn a little more about the early British sports cars. Now, it's not just the cars that make a great car show, it's the people. Here is what we mean.
Well, I've got one of the coolest guys here at the Riverside Car Show, and he seems to be here every year, and he seems to be getting cooler and cooler with age, and I'll explain all that in just a minute. First of all, you are?
Ray Navarro.
And where are you from, Ray?
I live in Riverside, originally from Mexico.
Okay, from Riverside right now.
Right.
Tell me about your car. Start with the make, year, and model, then we'll get into all the gory details.
Well, this is a 1949 MG model number TC, and has been one of my prides, and I've been racing the car for over 27, 28 years, and we just had a race at Road America. We got 267 cars racing with us, and I raced on Group 1, and we had a ball. People came in from all over the country. 4 guys came in racing Bugattis to race with us. So it was a really special event, and We love
Well,
it.
yeah, it was special, but it was special for more than just that reason. First of all, Road America, folks, you should know, has 3 200-mile-an-hour straightaways. Now, of course, a car like this isn't going to go 200 miles an hour, but it means it's going to go as fast as it can go. And here's the punchline on the whole deal. How old are you? Come on, you already told me. I'm going to tell them if you don't.
Bill, I'm 82.
82 years old. You'd think you'd know better at 82 years old to be out racing cars at Road America.
I really, I'm trying to learn, you know. I'm trying to learn.
Do you still enjoy it?
I have a ball.
Even at 82, you can still enjoy getting out and bringing a car out?
I enjoy the car. I think about it, but once on the lineup, on the paddock and ready to go, the adrenaline keeps pumping up, and we just want to go. And we love it. We fun. And I hope you join us. It's really.
But wait a minute. You must be aware that your capabilities are diminishing with age. Certainly, I'm 67, and I am not the driver or rider that I once was, and I'm well aware of it. At 82, I am assuming it must be worse. Does this not bother you?
Well, you know, I passed tests, Bill. They don't just let you get on the track. I passed tests. They check you up.
Yeah, I know how they do that. There's that Navarro guy again. Let him go. Yeah, I know how that works. Sure. I've been around racing a long time. He had the money. He threw his entry fee up on the counter. Let him race. Am I right?
Well, no, that's not quite the case. But anyway,
yes, it is.
It's fun. It's fun, and I
even at 82.
My wife keeps telling me you should stop. You should stop, and I'm going to stop. And I don't know if this year, next year, but sooner or later I'm going to stop.
Well, you not only race a car. If I remember our interview last year, you also work on them.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, you've done a lot of the restoration work and all that.
I have done a lot of mechanical work on the car, and you have to learn the car. You have to know something about the car, because you cannot keep bringing the car to the body shop, to the repair shop, to Rich and Larry to work on the cars, you know. But you have to. You're on the track. I mean, something happens to the car, you have to know what's aching.
Well, plus the fact that I've always said that I think the best drivers in the world are the ones that understand the cars intimately. There are some examples like Sterling Moss, who really didn't know anything about mechanics of the cars, but those are very rare guys. Most of them are more like Fangio, that understood the cars inside and out, and Andretti and Foyt and all those guys who understood the cars intimately. I think they make really the best drivers in the long run.
I agree with you, Bill.
Yeah.
This is.
The more
you have to understand the mechanics.
You really
have
do.
to understand the potential in the car, and you have to be careful.
You have to understand the physics and all the rest of it. Well, listen, I want to thank you for, once again, one of the coolest guys that shows up every year at the Riverside Car Show. 82 years old, hasn't yet learned that this. Not to go out on a racetrack anymore, particularly a place like Road America, where you can go the full speed of the car. So, did you run it flat out?
6,700 RPMs.
How many mile per hour is that?
It's about 90 miles or so.
This will run 90 miles an hour?
Yeah.
Here's my new favorite best friend, 82 years old. He makes me feel okay about being 67.
We would have loved to stay in that part of the show, but there was so much more, and we wanted to be fair to everyone, so we moved our equipment to another area, and look what we found.
Well, folks, I'll tell you something. One of the things about the Riverside Car Show is that this is just something you just have to come in person, because there is no way that I can't even bring you a taste of this. We just looked at all those great British cars, and I walked over to the other side of the tracks, and here's there must be 200 or 300 exquisite cars on this side, and one of the first that I spotted was this absolutely exquisite traditional American street rod, and the owner happened to be there, so I said, let's find out about this one. First of all, you are?
Bill Delfiaco.
And where are you from?
Bolingbrook, Illinois.
Okay, tell me about your car, and I'd like you to start with the make, year, and model, then we'll get into it.
It's a 33 Ford sedan.
33 Ford sedan,
Yeah.
but is there any part of it from a 33 Ford?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, what is it from? What is it? It's all fiberglass?
No, it's all steel. It's just
Or it's a steel
body.
car? Okay,
Yeah, it's
let me
steel,
stop you right there. This is something I want the audience to understand. That we've talked about this before, that it's really not necessary to chop up antique cars anymore to make these great hot rods. That there's all kinds of fiberglass replica bodies, but there's not just fiberglass replica bodies. There are also steel replicas, aluminum replicas. You can have anything you want without chopping up an antique, right?
Right, you could.
And that's apparently what you did. You went for a steel car,
I got
and,
a steel
and, you-
car,
and you
right.
didn't have to chop up an antique.
No, I didn't have to do that.
Perfect. Okay, tell me about the rest.
I got a 383 stroker motor in here, 440 horsepower.
Transmission?
700 R4.
Rear end?
411 rear end.
Is it a Ford 9-inch?
I think it's a Ford 9-inch, yeah.
Okay, did you do any of the work on it?
I did some of it, so I didn't do it all, but some of it.
Okay, who
New
did?
wheels, Midwest Street.
This is a
street
Midwest
rod.
Street Rod car?
Yeah,
Beautiful.
well,
Their work is exquisite, yes.
Yeah.
How about the interior? Who did the interior?
Well, it was done like that when I got it, when I got the car, you know what I mean?
So the car was already complete when
Well,
you
it
got
wasn't
it?
complete. I did the running boards, the roof, some interior,
So it was partially done?
Yeah, partially done, right. So,
Why did you want a car like this?
so I always wanted one.
Always wanted a street
I got
rod?
a, yeah, 57 Chevy. I got what I always wanted, and I got one of these. It's my second dream.
Is it as much fun as you thought it would
Oh
be?
yeah, very very nice. Yeah.
I'll bet this thing really turns heads.
Yeah, it does.
Now, you haven't even mentioned you got a supercharger on it.
Yeah, supercharger. Yeah.
Well, this thing has got to really smoke.
Yeah, it runs good. Runs healthy.
Okay, is there anything about your car that I haven't noticed that you'd like the audience to know about?
Nah, really, that's about it.
Well, I'll tell you something. It's an absolutely beautiful car. And once again, another example of why you have to come to these shows in person, because I can only bring you a little bit of taste. This is one of those cars that I just noticed as I'm looking in. You've got a machine gun, a Tommy gun for a shift lever, right?
Right, that's it.
You've got to come to these shows. The more you look, the more you see. It's great.
Next, May spotted a car she insisted Bill cover. This one is May's pick.
Well, folks, it was bound to happen. Somebody was going to take one of the rat rods, and we've been explaining what rat rods are for the past year, maybe two now, that these were cars that kind of represented more what they were doing back in the 50s, that what guys could actually build in their own garages and all the rest of it. And sooner or later, somebody was going to take one of those rat rods and turn it into a showpiece. And we've got one here. First of all, you are.
My name's Greg Henry.
And where are you from, Greg?
I'm from Warrenville.
Tell me about your car. Start with the make, year, and model, then we'll get into the gory details.
Okay, it's a 1930 Ford Model A, and I've had it about 6-7 years now.
Okay, you weren't the original builder, you already explained to me, but in fact, somebody in Indianapolis built it as kind of a rat rod, and you took over from there.
Correct, yeah. It was built by Dave Martinez, a custom upholstery guy, and I found it on eBay and fell in love with the car and ended up running out there, taking a look at it, and went back about a week later and bought it.
Okay, let's talk about it. First of all, the most noticeable thing, of course, is you've got the famous flathead Ford V8 engine in there.
That's right. It's got the 51 Merc flathead, and it's got a pretty rare intake manifold on it. It's a Thinkston intake with the dual carbs.
Two Stromberg 97s?
They're Holly 94s.
Very similar
yeah,
carburetors.
very similar. You could almost not tell the difference unless you really look close.
And I'm going to test you now. Watch me embarrass a guest. Look how what a classy guy I am. Why did you use, or he use, a Merc engine, a Merc flathead, instead of the Ford flathead?
Well, the Merc was more of a sought-after flathead. It had a little longer stroke.
There you go,
stroke.
quarter-inch longer stroke. It was a bigger motor.
A little more horsepower.
A little more power. You're exactly right. How about a trans? What have you got behind here?
It's got a more modern truck trans. It's a Ford top loader, 3-speed with a 4-speed overdrive.
And how about a rear end?
It's a 9-inch Ford.
Okay, so it's got a complete kind of a modern driveline.
Pretty much so, yeah. It's a little more reliable, easier to get parts for. And having that overdrive is nice when you get up on the highway.
If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I am 44.
See, you seem a little young to really desire or appreciate a car like this.
That's an interesting point. I agree. I've always kind of been geared towards the more 50s era styling. This car attracted me. I always wanted a little coupe, and when I found it, it had all the right makings of one that's done traditionally. The car kind of represents something that would have been built late 40s, early 50s, and that's the look I really desired. And again, when I found it, it met that look, and so I kind of took it and brought it up from there.
Well, I'll tell you something. You got it right. I take it from a guy who was from that period.
Wow.
You got it right.
Thanks.
The car looks absolutely great. Now, is there anything I've missed about your car that you'd like the audience to know that I've forgotten to ask?
Well, it's got a really neat interior. It's got an old Plymouth dashboard cut down in there, and that attracts a lot of attention, as well as these headers that I custom built.
You do those yourself?
Right.
So you work on it yourself too then?
Oh yeah.
Well, thanks for spending a little time. Again, this is from whence hot rodding sprang, and it really does my heart good to see one with an old Ford flathead, or I should say a Merc flathead V8 in it, because it's got a 1/4 inch longer stroke. It's a bigger motor.
There you go.
That one was my pick. I thought it was very cool. And speaking of very cool, Art Lauschat was working with us that day, and he just happened to bring his new toy.
Well, folks, what you're probably not aware of is Art Lauschat has been helping us here on location all day because Janine couldn't be with us because she's working today, and Art has a new toy. First of all, Art, tell them who you are.
I'm Art Lauschat. I'm Mr. Janine.
Mr. Janine, there you go. Mr. Janine, and just got a new toy. Tell me about the new toy.
It's a 209 Shelby Cobra GT500.
More than that, this is a bad boy. We're talking about a supercharged. Go ahead, give us the rest.
Supercharged, 6-speed, 500 horse, 331 axle. It's a straight axle. They did away with the independent rear because they're busting them with this setup. They're breaking the suspensions.
With the high horsepower engines and all that, the Cobra versions and all that
right,
stuff.
they were hurting the axles with them, so they went back to the straight axle.
Interestingly enough, one of the reasons that I picked this car to do here is because I've already got some pictures of Art in his car. I went over when he got the car. I went over and took some pictures of it right because I wanted to get some pictures of him with the car. Quite a piece. But the question I've got to ask, and I hope you will forgive me, but I got to ask you this because I ask everybody else. How old are you?
I'm 62 years old.
62 years old. You've recently been through some very serious health problems, right?
Yeah, a little bit of cancer. No problems. We got away.
Yeah, you had radiation treatments, right?
Yeah, radiation.
And chemotherapy treatments, all this, right?
Yeah, lost a few pounds.
Yeah, you've lost how many pounds?
60.
60 pounds, and for some reason you felt you needed a supercharged 6-speed. Help me.
Yep, you got it. Something to bring back.
Does that make a lick of sense?
Well, I had a 68 years ago. Okay, and I always wanted a Shelby again. And Carroll Shelby's getting old, so I know he's talking about retiring and getting out of it completely.
Yeah, he's like 100 years old.
89.
Is he 89?
89.
Okay. With a heart transplant, 20-year-old heart transplant, yeah.
Yep, and he's going to be getting out of this soon, I'm sure.
So you want to make sure you get the last one?
Oh, I want to get one of them.
Anyhow, is it, all kidding aside, did you find it therapeutic?
Oh, yeah.
Make you feel better?
I like it, yep, completely.
Okay, you've only had it a few weeks now.
It's all about a month.
Okay, so you really can't give us a good evaluation yet?
No, I'll give you an evaluation.
Go ahead.
It's cool.
It's cool?
It's what everything it says it is. It is.
Smoking fast?
Yes, it is.
What did you expect? Art Lauschat.
Very cool. And even with my limited knowledge of cars, I understand overkill. Now let's switch gears from today's overkill to yesterday's fond memories.
Well, folks, if you were my age, you would know the first question to ask this fella. Do you know what that question is?
What is it?
No. If you're my age, you know what this is. But there is a first question. What's the first question?
What year?
No. Is that a 5-horse or an 8-horse?
8-horse.
Am I right?
Yeah.
That's the first question. And what do I mean by that?
The advertised horsepower.
You're probably not even old enough to remember. Do you remember why that was an important question?
Licensing.
Yes, exactly. What do you mean by licensing?
If you had a 4.8 under 5 horsepower, you could ride without a license at 14.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly like that. Believe me, I was affected by this, and it affected my entire life and still affects me today. In Illinois, back in the 50s, between 14 years old and 16 years old, you could get a driver's license for a motorcycle if it was less than 5 horsepower. So most of the manufacturers that were close, like Cushman, had a Cushman Eagle that was 8 horsepower. They put a thicker head gasket in, a little bit of different cam in the thing, and it was a 5-horse Eagle. So the important question is that a 5-horse or an 8-horse Eagle, so that you could ride it if you were 14 to 16 years old. It was very important back then.
Correct.
First of all, you are?
John Kubitz.
Where are you from, John?
Lombard.
How do you happen to have a Cushman Eagle?
My brother bought it new in 58.
No.
Yeah.
You guys have had this in your family since 58?
I rode this to high school.
How old are you?
67.
Well, you're the same age as I am
That's right.
then. Well, yeah, you should remember all this stuff, sure. Tell the audience about it. It's a 58 Cushman Eagle. Tell me about the rest.
It's totally redone. The engine was done by Lloyd Lahorn in Tennessee. Paint is by Larry at BC Auto. Seats are by John at Hot Rod Playground. And the powder coat is done by, all the silver powder coat is done by QC Powder Coat in Villa Park.
Tell the audience how many speed transmission it had.
2-speed.
Tank shift.
Tank shift.
Foot clutch.
Foot clutch on the left.
Yep. And I was a Whizzer motorbike guy because I had a Whizzer, and back then you were either a Whizzer guy or a Cushman guy, am I right?
Yeah, some Lambrettas and Vespas around.
But there were those were for the rich guys, and there weren't that many of them. And the thing that I remember most about it was the arguments that we had that they never wanted me to pedal with my Whizzer. In other words, if I raced a Cushman, the argument was whether I could pedal or not, getting underway, because the Whizzer belt slipped so much. So if I could pedal, I could beat the Cushman, but if they wouldn't let me pedal, then I couldn't beat the Cushman. And the advantage the Cushman had was you could actually spin the tire, and that was so cool.
Yeah, okay.
Rev the engine up, pop the clutch, and spin the tire.
It was tough on her chain, though.
Oh, yes, it was very hard on everything. Yes, you bet it was. Anyhow, is there anything I missed about your Cushman? It brings back a lot of fond memories to me.
Yeah, that's most of the stuff is all original. I made a few extra parts for new exhaust for it, and some of the other stuff I made out of stainless as opposed to rusted steel. But that's about it.
Hard to believe you've had this in your family since 1958. That is so cool. Here it is, folks. This is a very important piece of, if you're my age, very important piece of your teenage years, the Cushman Eagle, and this was the big guy, the 8-horse. As by the way, as a matter of fact, I should also say, what most of us did that got the 5-horse Eagles, we converted it to an 8-horse Eagle and left the title as a 5-horse.
Guys, even when they were 14 years old, they worried about power. Next, we wanted to take a minute to talk to one of the Showcase Classic judges. I can't even imagine trying to judge all these great cars.
Do I pick the right guys to interview or what? I mean, if this guy were any taller, he'd be out of the camera shot. Tell the folks who you are.
Bruce Granzo from Hobart, Indiana.
That's right. And how come they're letting you into Illinois today?
Well, once in a while I slip across the border undetected.
Undetected. You slipped it on your motorcycle today, right?
Yeah, it was a cool ride, but we got here. Caught a little bit of rain coming, about 5 minutes worth, but other than that, it was a decent ride.
Yeah, what the heck? We've been wet before, right?
No, I've been real wet before.
Yeah, real wet before. All right, we've got some things that we're going to be doing with Bruce coming up in the near future. I don't want to give it away. Now, what I grabbed you here for right now is for a different purpose. This place is packed today. There are cars in every nook and cranny of Riverside. How on earth, you're a judge, how on earth are you guys going to judge all these cars today?
Well, we have two teams. They're probably approaching 300 cars here. We've done shows bigger than that with just two teams. But when you split up, we have 5 guys on a team. Each one takes a different section of the car, and you can knock a car out in about a minute. But we do have to keep moving.
Well, what do you look for? So in other words, more than one guy looks at the car?
Oh, yes. Each guy has a different area. I'm taking care of the judging sheets, and I'm also doing engines. But you look for cleanliness, detail. It's not that hard.
Pull your sheet up. Tell me what's on there. What are you looking for?
Okay, well, you got, this doesn't really tell you what you're looking for, but we have interior is good for 20 points, exterior 20, body 15, chrome and trim 10 points, undercarriage 10, engine driveline 15, tires and wheels 5, and trunks 5. Each guy has his own area. Some of them have more than one area. You look in there, and it's like interior. They might see lint in the floor. That's good for a fraction of a point, and we can take off hundredths of a point, which makes it a whole lot easier to judge this show. But everything's about cleanliness and detail work.
Okay, so you're not intimidated by it at all. You think you're going to get all these cars judged?
Oh, we always do. We've had bigger shows than this.
Okay, I don't want to hold him any longer. My friend Bruce Granzo, in fact, you should remember he's the guy that invented and did the famous Hobart's Dam car shows.
They're trying to revive that for a third time next year. The city
I hope so.
If they can find the money, they're going to do it again.
It was a great show right over there by the Hobart's Dam. It was a great show.
Very popular.
Anyhow, I'm going to let him get back to judging. Personally, I don't see how they can get through all these cars, but he says they can do it, so he's off.
They did, in fact, get all the cars judged, but it sure wasn't easy. Now we have something else that isn't easy. Every year on Motorsports Unlimited, we pause to remember a couple of the special people who helped make our sport what it is. Our friend Jerry Lockhart, created two special awards that are near and dear to our hearts. Let's listen as Bill and then Jerry explain.
We've got a couple of fellows here that have no idea what this is all about, and hopefully we're going to explain it to them and to our audience in the next few minutes. First of all, we've got a guy that joins us every year for, at least 10, 15 years now, right?
More than that.
More than that?
Yeah, I'm guessing back in the 80s, you know.
Was it that far?
Yeah.
Tell the folks who you are.
I'm Jerry Lockhart out of Lisle, Illinois.
That's right. We met Jerry so many years ago. We've had so many of your cars on. You've got an incredible car collection, and now you're involved with the Autobahn down in Joliet and racing every day.
And having a ball.
And having a ball. I hope you're being careful.
Always. That's our slogan, actually.
Yeah, good slogan.
Drive fast, be safe.
Say it again?
Drive fast, be safe.
All right, what we're doing here is, this is actually Jerry Lockhart's baby. Some things have happened over the years. Jerry's been a long-time car show participant, and over the years some things have happened. One of the guys that started these car shows years ago was a fellow named Tom Lima. We can't really say he invented it, but let's say Tom was a fellow that was a prominent person in really creating the local summer car show. And Tom passed away, I think, of a heart attack, wasn't it?
Right. He was the most colorful character. He was just way ahead of his time on the car shows, and now there's shows every weekend, every place. And Tom was the show you went to, period, back in those days.
Right, kind of when it was only him.
Yeah, he was really a pioneer in the car shows.
Okay, and the other thing that happened is that my wife, Chris Schutz, passed away. And everybody that knows anything about Motorsports Unlimited knows that there wouldn't have been a Motorsports Unlimited had it not been for Chris Schutz. She was the person that, how did you always say it? She was the one that made me go.
She was the glue. She put everything together, made sure the girls had uniforms, made sure everything was scheduled. And every year I repeat it, but amazed she was such a car nut and she never drove.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Never had a driver's license, never wanted to have a driver's license, but there never was a bigger fan of auto racing and car racing and motorcycle racing and car shows and all the rest of it. She loved all of it. And quite frankly, she was the one that could do the paperwork and dot the I's and cross the T's and all the rest of it. And she was, Jerry's right, she was the one that made the whole Motorsports Unlimited thing go. And we are forever grateful to both Tom Lima and Chris Schutz. And in that vein, after they passed away, Jerry Lockhart decided he didn't want these people forgotten, and he created a couple of awards, the Chris Schutz Award and the Tom Lima Award. These are not intended to be awards for the best cars in the show or for the most perfect cars in the show or the most unique cars in the show or anything like that. What they are is cars that Jerry thinks Tom Lima would have liked, and I think Chris Schutz would have liked. Go ahead. Have I got it about right?
Exactly right. Again, I had nothing. I'm basically picking a car that Tom would have loved, and I think I hit it right on the head this year.
Yeah, I think you did too. And in my case, of course, obviously I knew very well what Chris would have liked. And I think, should we start with the Chris Schutz Award this year? Let's start with the Chris Schutz Award. So with the Chris Schutz Award this year, we're going to give it to, and we've talked to this gentleman earlier in the program today, but tell the folks who you are.
Ray Navarro.
Ray Navarro, and the reason I picked Ray Navarro for this Chris Schutz Award this year is not necessarily for his car, although Chris would, believe me, I know her, she would have loved his car, but she would have loved this guy. This is my kind of guy, my kind of motorsport guy. It would have been Chris's kind of 82 years old, still racing cars, still working on cars, still building cars. This is exactly the kind of person that Chris Schutz would have absolutely loved. So for 2010, Jerry, if you do the honors, make the award.
Well, ironically, a few years ago when I was here and I had my Ferrari and your car was next to mine, we did an interview together, so it's ironic that here we are again. Anyway, you very much deserve this, and this is a very, very special award to both Bill and I want to congratulate you. Thank you.
I'm most honored. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I hope you can fully appreciate what this is about. This is very, very important to us, and these were important people to motorsports, and we hope you understand.
This is a privilege, and I treasure it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And now, if you would, and by the way, real quick, before we go on, tell the folks once again the car you have here today.
I have a MG TC 1949.
Big wheeled MG. It was beautiful. We already looked at it earlier. Okay, now, if you would, go ahead. Once again, it couldn't have been a better pick. I knew Tom Lima. Couldn't have been a better pick. Tell the folks who you are.
My name's Greg Henry.
Greg Henry, we talked to you earlier, and he has the hot rod coupe with the flathead in it. And you know, Tom would love that flathead.
He's got a lot of really interesting touches in there. The old upholstery. What was the upholstery of a Chevy?
I'm not sure. I believe it is a Chevy. It was done by a guy that was the original owner of the car, Dave Martinez, out of Indianapolis, Indiana.
It looks either a Chevy or Buick, but you got a lot of neat touches. The Naugahyde on the roof, just a lot of the firewall. It's really an interesting car, and it really represents a whole different era going by, and I'm glad to see a car like that. Plus, the workmanship is exquisite, so congratulations.
Thank you.
If you go ahead and give the honors.
Wow, thanks so much.
Okay, we hope you guys appreciate what these are. These are very special awards. This is the only show of the year where these things are awarded, and of course they mean a great deal to us. We only do this once a year. So gentlemen, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Wow, appreciate it. Thank you.
Let's take a moment to remember previous Chris Schutz and Tom Lima award winners.
The Riverside Garage Show ends the outdoor summer car show season, and the 2010 edition was the best one yet, featuring everything from the 1932 Ford Highboy Roadsters to MGTCs to 1953 Cadillacs and everything in between. Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end, and we're out of time with only enough left to acknowledge our award-winning production team, including Tom McGrady, Art Lashot, our webmaster Frank Barbalis, and Sue Cassandra. Special thanks to JBTV's Jerry Bryant. Music is created for us by independent artists Roger Polly and Jerry Herbert.
Of course, we have to take a moment to thank the stars of this edition of Motorsports Unlimited: Samantha Bentley, Janine Lashot, Rena Cairo, and our host, Bill Wildt. Me, I'm May Chin, reminding you the snowmobile and motorcycle ice racing season is just around the corner. It will be here before you know it. Time to get your stuff ready. Thanks for watching. See you next week.
This program made possible in part by support from Bridgestone Firestone and your local Bridgestone Firestone tire retailers.
This program made possible in part by support from ABC Auto Parts, located on Ashland Avenue and 138th Street in Blue Island, Illinois.
Motorsports Unlimited is produced by Bill Wildt, president of the Motorsport Advancement Crusade.
This program made possible in part by support from Copy That, located in Carroll Stream, Illinois.
This program made possible in part by support from Jimmy's Red Hots, located on Green Avenue and Pulaski Road in Chicago.
This program made possible in part by support from J.C. Whitney & Company, located just off I-80 at the Utica exit in LaSalle, Illinois.
Motorsports Unlimited was created to raise public consciousness, understanding, and appreciation of the motorsport community and their activities. You can contact us by email at msutv.com, or you can write to Motorsport, P.O. Box 66242, Chicago, Illinois, 60666. We enjoy hearing from our audience. Please let us know what you think.
Next week on Motorsports Unlimited, we're on the road again. That's Bruce Granzo on his 105th anniversary Harley motoring along the east coast of Lake Michigan, and me with my helmet cam on my Suzuki GSX 1100G. There's nothing like a motorcycle ride. It always turns into an adventure, and this one was completed in a day. Come with us next week on Motorsports Unlimited.
So that's it, another edition of Motorsports Unlimited and the lovely ladies of motorsports. And be be with us next week because we'll have something real exciting. Bill Wildt's going to have the lovely ladies, and just about anything can happen right here on Motorsports Unlimited. Every week at this time, we bring you the best in motorsports. So, be seeing ya. Bye-bye, and keep on rocking.